With Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station Crime Prevention Unit Deputy
Did
Josh
the first
Dubin.
part of that come in? Did it come in loud and clear?
I hope so.
The Neighborhood Watch.
The Neighborhood Watch.
There you go.
With Deputy Josh Dubin. And your host, Perry Smith. We are talking about all things Santa Clarita Valley law enforcement related, community outreach, breaking news, crime stuff, everything that's going on. Deputy Dubin.
Hi, Perry.
Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Perry.
And we have a very special guest, too. As always, we try to bring you the interesting perspective from law enforcement. We can get outsiders and insiders to talk about what's going on. And we have Tony Moore, who works with what's the name of the special unit that he works with?
Well, he works at our Sheriff's Headquarters Bureau, the ECOM unit, and that's
unit.
down in Monterey Park. Okay. And what's the difference between an outsider and an insider?
Well, an outsider is someone who's on the outside as far as like
of the building?
Like Stephanie English, she's an insider for the fire department, but she's an outsider of the sheriff's station, so we'll bring on insider, outsider. When you guys
Did you get that perfect there?
Well, you're putting me on the spot. I'm struggling. I'm trying to get a lot of different perspectives is all I'm saying.
All right. I'm sorry.
We want a complete look, a holistic approach to Santa Clarita Valley law enforcement here at the Neighborhood Watch.
Outstanding.
From 10 to 11 every first and third Thursday of the month. It's a partnership we've created. We talk about law enforcement outreach and all the ways that people can get a hold of their Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station deputies. You guys have quite a few methods. Social media.
Right.
You're all over that. Social media boss, right?
Yeah. How did I get that name?
I'm pretty sure that was a self-anointed title.
No.
But we can
I
check the archives.
I am here to say right now that
Mark Urbina, can you confirm that?
That is not a self-anointed. Anointed.
He's smiling and nodding. That's as good as it's going to get.
He doesn't want to mess up his hair.
That's true. Too much talking. So if people want to follow along, they can obviously go to hometownstation.com and listen live if they don't have their radio on at their desk. But they can also follow what the sheriff station is doing here in the Santa Clarita Valley by checking out the Facebook page at SCV Sheriff, right?
Right.
They type that in.
We have a station Facebook page, which you could find. Just go to the top of your search bar once you're logged into Facebook. Type in Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station, and you'll find our page, and give us a like. We also have a Twitter account at SCV Sheriff. We use the Nixle service, which is a service that you can sign up for. It's free. You would go to www.nixle.com, which is spelled Nixle.com, and you could sign up for that service, and you could get the latest press releases and breaking news, emergency information from government agencies, local law enforcement, things like that. Check that out on their website. We have a station Facebook page, which is www.santaclarita, no spaces, just www.santaclarita.lasd.org. What else do we have, Perry?
Well, we try to keep it educational here in the Santa Clarita Valley.
That was a lot of stuff.
On the Neighborhood Watch. You just threw a lot at our listeners. They're probably still scribbling furiously to keep up with your information there. But we try to keep it light and fun, but also informational. We have a really good information day. I don't know a lot about Bitcoin and how it works, but Tony Moore from the ECOM unit does, and he's going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm excited to hear about that. We also, a very important, very relevant topic going on is parents watching what their kids doing on social media and with the internet, particularly Facebook and Twitter. We had a big incident that we're going to talk about in a little bit called the SCV Purge, and that's something that's been I'm pretty sure it's going to be getting some headlines today. We found out about that last night, and we reported on it this morning, so you can check hometownstation.com for the news story. But there was also a few crime stories. Want to catch up on what happened on the 4th of July, talk about a fundraiser that the law enforcement community is doing, and we want to raise attention on that. And we have a few funny stories to wrap up the hour. We'll talk about that at the end as far as a bomb scare that happened.
Right.
That ended up, thankfully, no one was hurt, and a would-be thief who stole from an undercover deputy. We'll talk about that a little bit later, closer to the bottom of the hour, but also want to talk about catch me up on the 4th of July, Deputy Dubin. What happened? What was the scene like? Was it as busy as you guys expected? Because you put out a lot of outreach beforehand.
It absolutely was. And, you did a story on hometownstation.com regarding, how many calls for service. We had a ton of calls for service. We confiscated about 60 pounds of illegal fireworks, delivered that over to the fire station for the proper disposal. We had one small fire reported that you reported on. And overall, it was certainly busy. It was a busy 4th.
You threw out some numbers last show, which was July 3rd, the first Thursday of the month. Were you talking about just how many calls you expected? Like, what you generally get that time of year is a couple hundred, just on that PM shift, right?
Right.
How many?
And you know, we had more calls for service this year than we ever have before. And you know, by the time that you factor in all the calls for service related to illegal fireworks, and then you know you have your routine calls for service, we had well over 400 calls that night for service. Jeez. So it was certainly a busy night. We had extra deputies out. A lot of the CPU deputies and a lot of the other special assignment deputies were out helping out the patrol deputies, dealing with some of these extra calls for service, and it went as well as could be expected.
Right. No, there were no serious injuries. There were no fatal crashes or incidents. Nobody was killed. Right.
Right.
That were
absolutely
related to 4th of July celebrations, anyways.
Right.
One arrest, Jorge Sanchez. Apparently, allegedly, the case is still going through the court system, but he was arrested for being combative with some emergency paramedics in Canyon Country near Sierra Highway and Jakes Way, but he was arrested and taken into custody without too much incident. And how many calls we had? 32 calls related specifically to illegal fireworks, and 208 calls just for service. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it was 32 calls for service on July 3rd, and then 208 on July 4th. And that's just fireworks.
Right. And 60 pounds of illegal fireworks were confiscated, so I'm sure there's probably some more out there. You hear it every once in a while still going off in the weeks after July 4th. We have to take a quick break. We'll be right back on your hometown station, Neighborhood Watch, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back, Santa Clarita Valley. We're here on your hometown station, the Neighborhood Watch, every first and third Thursday of the month, where we talk about all things Santa Clarita Valley law enforcement related on AM 1220 KHTS. And as promised, we will have Tony Moore from the ECOM unit of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department calling in and talking to us a little bit about social media activity and parenting. He is the expert in the field, right, John?
Yeah, you know what? He works down at Monterey Park at our headquarters building, and he does a lot of stuff with social media, and more recently he's done a lot of stuff with Bitcoin. So a lot of people haven't heard of Bitcoin, and I'm certainly not an expert in it. I don't know if you're an expert in it.
Oh, first of all, Bitcoins, if I'm correct, they cost like hundreds of dollars, right?
Well, I don't know. So we're gonna get him on the line right now. Do we have
Tony? So Tony Moore, thank you for calling in. I appreciate you taking part in the Neighborhood Watch.
No problem. I'm glad to be invited.
And Tony, I talked to you a long time ago. I don't know if you remember. There was an undercover operation where the ECOM unit was taking part in an operation or a sting to get NOS off the streets. And I think that was about a year ago.
Probably a year ago
summer?
Or so, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, about a year ago.
And I was wondering if you could kind of talk to me a little bit about how you became involved in the ECOM unit and just the nature of the work that you guys do for the Sheriff's Department.
Okay. Yeah. Well, just to kind of give a brief, description of what ECOM is, it's Electronic Communications Triage Unit. And for you listeners, just so you know, we're not Big Brother. We're not monitoring everybody. We're only looking at social media platforms that are open to the public, that anybody can look at if they went on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, what have you. But our primary goal is to push content out, push information out from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And that was kind of a direction from our upper management, from the sheriff down. At the time was Sheriff Baca. And he saw a need that social media was a tool that our communities were on, and that our communities were demanding that we communicate with them on. So we said, hey, why not? Why not be a part of the social media craze? So we also saw it as a great tool to get our information out, push press releases, the great news about the Sheriff's Department, but also, too, sometimes when it's not so great news, we still want to be transparent and get that information out to the communities we serve. And social media was a tool, and that's how ECOM was created. It was pretty much a unit that would handle all the social media accounts for all the stations within the Sheriff's Department. We even have some specialized station or units that have their own Twitter account, and it's really just getting that content out and sharing it with the public. And in doing that, in sharing content, we came across what you described as the NOS instance, where there was Facebook parties or illegal, we want to say illegal parties that are being advertised on the internet. And so that caused great concern for our communities, and we wanted to do whatever we could to combat those type of illegal parties going on. And NOS was one of the things that was being sold at those parties.
So it's not really a surveillance unit at all. It's really more about outreach. But you guys obviously are keeping an eye on what's out there for the public, so that you know what's going on in case, you know, so when people contact you about illegal activity, you already know.
Yeah, exactly. And we would be remiss if we, you know, Commander Parker, Mike Parker, always has this saying that I always like to share. You know, we took an oath to uphold, you know, the Constitution of the United States and California, and we didn't say, oh, except on the internet. We kind of have that responsibility to keep our communities safe, and even if that stuff occurs on the internet, we've got to understand and know what's being posted and how that works, and respond in that particular platform as well. And so, if it involves advertising, you know, drugs, narcotics, you know, selling alcohol to minors at parties, posting things that are inappropriate on there. As an agency, we should be aware of that, and we should address those things. And I know, Josh, you're doing a great job out there, you know, hosting town hall meetings and informing the public and how to be safe on the internet. And that's great.
When did you start to see? When was the ECOM unit formed, and when did you start to see the push from the sheriff's department to really take advantage of this social media and the outlet and what's going on there?
We were created in September of 2012. That's September 1st, 2012 is when we officially went live. However, since 2010, Commander Parker and, you know, with the direction of Sheriff Baca at the time, from several other executives involved, too many to name, they were all had a hand in ensuring that we had some type of play in social media. And we looked at it for a while and, you know, tried to figure out the best way that we can form this unit and the best way to communicate that message. So it was really a process that started, I think, maybe late 2010, 2011, and finally 2012 we went live.
And it's a great resource because honestly, some of this stuff happens so fast that it's hard for even, you know, people in the media. We're watching it all the time to keep up with it. And one thing that I think is really interesting is Bitcoin and this new technology that's coming on. Talk to me a little bit. Please back us up and explain for the layperson like myself, what exactly is a Bitcoin?
Well, Bitcoin is just one of the more popular what they call cryptocurrencies that are out there. It's actually the first. Since Bitcoin, there is over 400 other alternative coins, or what they call altcoins. But we'll focus on Bitcoin. Basically what Bitcoin is it's a peer-to-peer network system that, I should say a peer-to-peer cash network system that allows me to send money to whoever I want without a centralized type system that is monitoring or controlling that send of cash. And so it creates a means, it has several positives. Think of countries that, like Africa, where they can't afford to send money to family members because of the enormous fees that a Western Union or some type system might charge just to send money. Bitcoin is a great system that will allow them to send that money with little to no fees whatsoever.
But there's also an anonymity element that I guess could pose issues for law enforcement and people trying to track the money, right? I think that's the aspect that law enforcement is watching, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of people say that it's anonymous. In the Bitcoin community, we like to say it's pseudo-anonymous because it's only anonymous as you make it. There's what they call a blockchain, and that's pretty much what controls the transactions by a process called mining. And it gets real deep into it, but miners basically are the ones that are processing the transaction, but also running computer mathematical algorithms to mine new Bitcoins. And in the process of mining for Bitcoins, they're also handling the transaction. And so when you have a Bitcoin address, that address is a series of 32, characters, and that address doesn't come back to anybody, right? You get that address, and it's not tied to a bank account or anything like that, so it's somewhat anonymous. However, with this blockchain, it's public and it's open to everyone, so anybody can go on and see transactions that occurred all the way from the very first transaction that happened back in 2009 to a transaction that happened seconds ago, and that's viewable, and you can see the payment transfer from one person to another, including, you know, the amount of that transfer, but you just don't have names attached to it, so it's pseudo-anonymous. So it is open to everybody.
Okay, Tony, we have to take a quick break for commercials. If we could have you stick around for to ask you a few more questions. This is really interesting.
Sure, no problem.
All right, thanks. We'll be right back on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.